All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight to hear from our Wicomico County Board of Education candidates. My name is Hannah Cicchini. I am the weekend anchor and senior reporter at 47 ABC WMDT right here in Salisbury. But tonight, I'm your moderator. So tonight's forum is sponsored by PACE at Salisbury University, the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Salisbury Committee. Since 2018, these three organizations have been putting on candidate forums, and the goal of these forums is simple: to educate and inform citizens about the candidates and issues that are facing them in November, and to promote positive civil discourse in the discussion of those issues. The three organizations believe that bipartisanship, not hyperpartisanship, best serves the citizens and our community, and it is with that spirit that we welcome those of you here tonight, those of you at home watching on PAC 14, and also that we welcome our candidates for the Wicomico County Board of Education. So a little bit of logistics here. This is how the forum will run tonight. We are going to basically be picking questions at random by district for our candidates to answer. And then at the very end, each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. And for their answers to the questions that are posed to them by our panelists, they will have 90 seconds to answer each one. So we will begin on my left, and we'll go down to the right, and then after that, we will start with the next person for the next question, and so on. So with that, I would just ask that our candidates begin to introduce themselves, and don't forget to say your name when you introduce yourself. You may begin. You can just say your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Brown. I'm a lifelong resident of Wicomico County.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Luke Angelot.
My name is Gene Malone. A little loud.
Karen Miller.
Susan Beecham.
Leonard Harvey.
And Brittingham Suthalski, and I have the distinction of being the first woman ever elected to the Wicomico County School Board.
Bonnie Ennis.
George Demko.
Darren Lombardo.
All right, thank you so much to each of our candidates. So now we will begin with our questions. The first question will come from Mr. Sandy Pope with PACE here at Salisbury University.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you, candidates, for being here tonight. And thank you for everyone coming to listen to what they have to say. This first question is going to be for everyone. What is your experience in public education, and what qualifications do you have that you feel would make you an asset to the Wicomico County Board of Education?
Mr. Brown, you may begin. You have 90 seconds.
Yes, I am a 40-year retiree from the Wicomico County Public School System. I've worked in the school system both as a teacher and moving up through administration, and I've been on the board now going in my 5th year, and I feel that I have the qualifications and the experience to continue to work with the community and the Board of Ed to make our school system a better place.
Thank you. Mr. Angelo, 90 seconds.
All right. When it comes to experience, that's definitely something I get a lot. Biologically speaking, my brain has not finished developing, so I do have a very young, I'm on the younger side. But one thing I do have is recent in-classroom experience. When it comes to things like block scheduling, virtual learning, I know what that feels like firsthand, and that perspective is something that will be very valuable on the board moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Malone, you have 90 seconds.
Again, I'm Gene Malone, a lifelong resident of the area. Went through public school here, as did my wife and my 3 sons, my grandsons, my parents. My grandchildren are now in public school. I was very active in public school as a parent, president of Bennett PTA, treasurer of the PTA, done a lot of coaching of youth soccer, so I'm very familiar with youth. I have a passion for that and the education piece of it. And I'm a lifelong banker, so I guess my expertise I bring to the board that if I'm reelected, bring back to the board is banking. I understand the budgets, I understand how we make money, how we spend it, and how we take care of the taxpayer money.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you. Karen Miller, not a lifelong resident of Wicomico County, but the proud parent of 3 Wicomico County graduates. Also served as PTA vice president at Glen Avenue when my children were there. Taught for 19 years in Wicomico County Public Schools, and since that time have continued working in Wicomico County Public Schools as part of SU student intern program, supervising student interns. So I have a lot of experience in the classrooms Wicomico County. I have a lot of experience with high-achieving students, a lot of experience working with our challenging students. So I understand that part of the equation, and I believe that every student can do well, and I believe that I have enough experience to help make sure that our county achieves those goals with our students.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, 90 seconds.
My experience is a little bit different. My husband and I made the decision 25 years ago to send our children to private school. So that is what my experience is. And through that, I came out with a lot of great information. I know what an excellent education is. I know the curriculum of an excellent education, and I know the environment that works to receive an excellent education. I've been exposed to curriculum that works, and I believe I can bring that to Wicomico County. Apparently, parents are upset, teachers are upset. What we have right now is not working. I think we need fresh eyes and fresh perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Arby, 90 seconds.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome to SU. I did not go to school here. I'm the only foreign-born immigrant on the panel here. Both my kids attended private school, but then when they tested and got into the magnet program, my son started 3rd grade at North Salisbury and my daughter 5th grade at North Salisbury. Since they've been in public schools, I've been actively involved as a volunteer in whichever schools they go. My daughter's at Bennett Middle this year, and my son's at Salisbury Middle in the Next Gen program. I'm currently Vice President of PTA. For more than 10 years, I've been a volunteer at the Junior Achievement of the Wicomico County Eastern Shore. I've been teaching in different elementary and middle schools all these 10 years. I'm also serving as a board member. I'm also coordinating the stock market challenge game, bringing in middle school students to learn about how to invest. And we will be hosting the first students on November 18th right here on campus. So wherever I go, I make a difference, and that's what I bring. Besides being a professor here at finance, I'm also an entrepreneur investor. The tall building you see in downtown is a project of mine done by one of my students. And so that's what I bring, pragmatism, getting things done, because I have real-world experience, lived, worked in 3 countries, which I think I'm here investing in this town because I believe in this town, and we can do a lot better with our schools.
Thank you. Ms. Brittingham-Slotowski, 90 seconds.
I'm a native and lifelong resident of Wicomico County. I have a BS and master's from Salisbury University in education and my doctoral work at the University of Maryland, College Park. I had a 31-year career in education in the Laurel, Delaware School District, 10 years teaching English and journalism, and 21 years as secondary reading specialist. In this role, I traveled throughout the United States with the International Reading Association, conducting workshops on adolescent literature and secondary reading, which I also taught here at SU. For the state of Delaware, I helped to implement the first testing program in the state of Delaware, and also the implementation of middle schools in the state of Delaware. And I worked as a consultant in curriculum to several other school districts. I'm no stranger here in Wicomico County. I have served as a judge on Zoning Appeals Board, the board here at SU. I've also been on the election board, and I've been president of many civic, church, and educational organizations. But I'm really proud of the fact that we figured out the other day that I've done over 1,200 tours at the Ward Museum as a docent in the last 25 years. And this is something that I really had not realized until the volunteer coordinator and I discussed it. So I'm very active in the community. I serve on both the Curriculum Council and the Policy Committee for the board.
Thank you. Sir, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and then Mr. Pope, if you would reread the question, please.
Sure. The question is, what is your experience in public education, and what qualifications do you have that you feel would make you an asset to the Board of Ed?
Could you say that a little louder?
Sure. What is your experience in public education, and what qualifications do you have that you feel would make you an asset to the Wicomico County Board of Education?
And then if
Okay.
you'd please just introduce yourself, and you have 90 seconds to answer.
Okay, my name's John Palmer, current member of the school board. I've been there since 2015. Have gained a lot of knowledge of how the school board operates, and you never fully learn that because things are always there to be discovered. I've put 4 sons through the Wicomico County Board of Education system. My experience in teaching, I've actually stood in front of a class for 5.5 years with the Good Morning class to students at the Naval Academy. I'm proud of my duties there. And I just look forward to carrying on. That's about it.
Thank you. Ms. Ennis, you have 90 seconds.
I'm going to throw my name into the lifelong resident of Wicomico County hat. I am a graduate of James M. Bennett and a graduate of Salisbury University. And then on June of this past year, after 44 years, I retired from Wicomico County Public Schools. 26 of those years were spent as a classroom teacher at Delmar Elementary, Fruitland Intermediate, North Salisbury, and Salisbury Middle School, before moving to the central office as coordinator of elementary mathematics, and then finishing out my career as supervisor of school improvement. I'm the co-author of 3 books on strategies for teaching mathematics. I've done curriculum vetting for the Board of Ed. I've done presentations for McGraw-Hill, Holt Reinhardt Winston, and several other publishing companies. I feel I have a great deal to offer the district with my experience and my background, and I want to thank NAEP for finally telling the world what our classroom teachers have known for so long, that our math and reading scores are low. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in education. I'm not a lifelong resident, but I've been here most of my life. I came down here originally with my young family and spent, because I was going to work as a director of microbiology at what was then PRMC, now it's Tidal Health. I worked there for 27 years. My kids went through public schools here, kindergarten through high school. After 27 years at PRMC, I decided to change careers. I came to SU, earned a master's degree in teaching English as a second language. I did that in the public schools for 5 years, full-time, both in Wicomico County and in Delaware briefly. Right now, I still teach part-time for Warwick, teaching adults English as a second language. And I also volunteer at Salisbury Urban Ministries, tutoring children. So I do see, in that experience, I do see the effects, some of the effects of COVID. Some of these kids are very fragile. You can see that right away. My other current experience is I spent the past 12 years on the board of the Wicomico Public Library. So I have some insight into some of the issues from that experience as well.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you for having me. My experience in public education, I have 10 years experience with the federal Head Start program. I was commissioned for the state of Maryland to develop a client tracking system for 17 community action agencies across the state. And so with that, I learned a tremendous amount, not only in development, but student assessments. And the Head Start program is very similar to our Birth Through 5 program. So as it relates to client tracking or student achievement, it is absolutely vital to a performing school system to be able to assess that accurately and move forward. As far as what I have to offer, I have 32 years experience in information technology. I believe we can really use that along with the fact that 3 years ago I'm the co-founder of the Delmarva Parent-Teacher Coalition. I have a very good view from the inside of the school system with an alliance of teachers, parents, students. We have a really good idea of what's going on the inside, and it's not what they tell you on the outside. So I am prepared, I am equipped, and I am ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Bill Chambers with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, candidates. Thank you for joining us. These series of questions we're going to ask now will be by district. We have candidates from districts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and at large. So the question is for the candidates from District 4. Do you believe all children can perform at grade level, including those in low-performing, high-poverty schools?
I am so glad you asked me that question. As a reading specialist, I have always been very upset when I hear about test scores. You can arrange statistics to be any way you want them to. In Wicomico County Public Schools, we have approximately 15,000 students. About 1,500 of these students are special education students. Some of these dear children will never, ever progress above the first or second year level. But yet, their scores are included in our overall scores. The same thing with the English learners, the foreign language students. These children may be able to read on their first language, but they're tested in English. Of course they're not going to do well until after they have been in our school system for many years. What I would like to see are test scores with those two populations out. And I think you're going to find out that children in Wicomico County Public Schools are doing very well.
Thank you.
Can you take that to 5 all nights up here? I don't think we're going to have any children perform up to performance that we're expecting if we continue to use the programs that are in place right now. If you go back to 20 years ago and you start looking at our programs, starting with like Thornton Commission, I don't know how many hours I spent at Thornton Commission meetings going over how we're going to improve so everybody can be on grade level. It just hasn't happened. We've gone through commission after commission. We've gone through Thornton, Raised to the Top, Common Core, No Child Left Behind. Now we're getting into Kerwin and the Blueprint. Nothing has worked. We're still where we are right now, where we were 15 years ago. And I don't believe the way we're approaching it with the Blueprint is going to work because we are not changing a lot of the ways we're teaching our children. We have got to bring the control back to the teachers and the parents in the class. We've got to let teachers teach the programs and classes and stop being hall monitors and bus monitors and parking lot monitors and school lunch monitors. We hire them to do a job, and that's to teach our children, and that's what they should be doing. If we have to figure out a different way of getting those other jobs done, then darn it, that's what we need to be concentrating on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mr. Pope.
This question is for the candidates from District 1. What do you know about the status of overall student achievement in Wicomico County Public Schools?
In Wicomico County, one of the problems that we have is that many of our students don't have the background that they need to be successful. We have to continue to work very early on with students in pre-K and kindergarten to bring them up to level. Our test scores and the ability of our kids is lacking. We realize that, and we work tirelessly to try to provide that background need that they need. We have to have. One of the things that I think we'll need to do and will continue to do is to have to grow our own. We need more people to come into the schools, to volunteer, to tutor after school, and work with the students who are lacking. That's the only way that we're going to be able to bridge that gap that is between the high achievable kids and the ones who are really struggling.
Thank you. Mr. Angelo, 90 seconds.
I just want to make sure I heard the question. You said, what do you know about student achievement? Okay. So this is something that is not my expertise, as I'm not currently on the board. I would love to learn more about how we can raise the student achievement, but as of right now, I cannot give you a definite answer, as I am not on the board as of right now.
Thank you. Okay, our next question comes from Mr. Chambers.
Next question is for our at-large candidates. What is your plan for providing or increasing mental health resources for struggling students?
We'll start with Ms. Ennis. You have 90 seconds.
Water's not going to help. I can't talk into the water. The mental health of our students is of utmost importance if we are going to be able to keep our classroom teachers able to teach in their classrooms. As a board member, supporting the district financially through whatever means, whether it be through grant funding or whether it be through the general funds, should be top priority. The biggest issue right now is finding the people to take those jobs. Like most industries, we are struggling to hire all of those positions that we currently have. Wicomico County hired several new social workers this year. They hired several new guidance counselors this year. They hired several new nurses this year. What we need to do is to come up with a good district-wide group that would work with each one of our schools in helping those small groups within the schools to work with those students with the greatest mental health needs. I think it's important that we identify those students as quick as possible and we work with those students. That's the only way that we're going to be able to give our teachers the opportunity to teach.
Thank you. Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
As I said before, I see a few of the students who are suffering as a result of COVID. They are quick to anger or quick to cry. They are very fragile. And as Ms. Dennis just said, we need to expand our mental health efforts for those students, because those students will go on. We have to identify them when they're in elementary school, because if they stay angry and fragile, they will only become problems later on. So that's why it's very important that we continue to expand our mental health and social health efforts in those areas, particularly in the wake of COVID. We want to preempt these problems before they get to middle school or high school and become discipline problems or worse.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you. As it relates to mental health, we hear this term all the time. There's a mental health crisis in the school. My position on it is, we as a school system, you can't leave those who created the problem in charge of fixing the actual problem as a solution provider. They kept our schools closed, they kept our kids at home, they rode that bus until the wheels fell off. Now, are there consequences to that? Yes, absolutely. So as far as mental health services, guidance counselors are great. Psychologists and bringing some of these professionals into the school system, it goes beyond the scope of a school system. They're crossing the line. They're talking about sexual issues with our students, questioning them about things. That is not the role of a school system. As it relates to mental health and what is required under the blueprint, I would like to see us get partners in place and actually, as a school system, refer some of those areas out to professionals. That should not be handled internally. And as far as mental health, I always say the greatest mental health to address that are performing arts, sports. These are some of the things to get them engaged that really helps the mind. We have to do that. We have to do a better job, and it's amazing. Even through the CTE program, working together, that is what bridges the gap and restores mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Pope.
And this question is for everyone, all the candidates. With policies that target LGBTQ+ people becoming more prevalent around the country, what would you do to protect students, faculty, and staff?
All right, so we're going to start with Mr. Angelo, because with the general question, we started with Mr. Brown. So Mr. Angelo, you have 90 seconds.
One thing Yeah, one thing I've definitely done since I started was definitely naming that in the groups of people that I'm fighting for, when I am elected, the LGBT community is definitely one of them. I personally don't understand the reasoning behind discrimination against anyone, especially someone who is doing something. It's not like they're choosing it; it's just how they are. So I don't know why it's a major issue in the first place. That's how I see it. So one thing I will do is make sure that the students have a safe space they can go to while they're at school, and schools are considered a safe space for them to express their identity. That is definitely something that I want to look into. I definitely plan on continuing partnerships, especially with organizations like PFLAG. I want to see what they can do to offer to this school system and what we can do to partner, because I do not see the reason why it's even a talking point almost. To me, that's just somebody's identity. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Mr. Malone, 90 seconds.
Yes, I'd have to agree with Mr. Angelot. I don't understand why why it would be an issue. We protect the rights of all students in Wicomico County Public Schools, and those students, they have LGBTQ plus clubs, there's alliance clubs, there's all kinds of different student-formed clubs. The teachers don't form the clubs like they wouldn't form any other club. So we protect all students. We would protect them continually. They have the same rights as everyone else. In 2022, it really shouldn't be a talking point or a point of conversation. How are we going to protect them? It's automatically done in our system now.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, 90 seconds.
Hi. Yes, Wicomico County has a diverse population, and we need to recognize that they are a diverse population. We have LGBTQ plus students in our schools. We have staff members in our schools, and they all should be protected. They all should be treated with respect. That's a minimum requirement. I don't even know why we have this conversation. It's just beyond me. But yes, they should continue to be protected. And given the current climate where social media has been used as a weapon against those students and those staff members, we need to recognize that. And when it's used as a weapon against staff members in our schools, against clubs in our schools, against students in our schools, then the people that use that weaponize that information, should face consequences for it. And we need to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, 90 seconds.
Before I answer the question, just a little bit about myself. I did attend the University of Delaware, received a degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and finance. I received my Master's of Business Administration right here at SU. I also have a Bachelor of Arts in Theology. I've worked for 7 years in school administration, also taught at Warwick. Now on to the question. I believe that once a student enters the doors of one of our schools, they're included, and they should be included. The bottom line is that none of us, not one of us, should be critical of anybody's race, of their gender, of their identity, of their religion. That is not what education is about in the public school system. You know, our school system should do its best to meet every child's needs, and that's the bottom line. Some students need more, and we need to provide more for those students.
Thank you. Mr. Arvey, 90 seconds.
So I want to tell, this is something that happened earlier this year. A student who committed suicide in high school, freshman, right here in Wicomico County, was a subject of bullying because she came out. That's unacceptable. Any loss is too much to bear. Having said that, let me quote Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice. Where you see wrong and iniquity or injustice, speak out, because this is your country, this is your democracy, make it perfect. I was not born here, but I'm a proud US citizen. And I will call out an organization which is represented by one of the candidates here, the Delmarva Public Teacher Coalition. They make it a point to chastise, denigrate, insult teachers who try to help LGBTQ students, and that's not acceptable. That is wrong, and that's unacceptable. We are here to make it inclusive, to speak for everybody, to make children safe so that they can build the best lives ever, right? That's what school's for. So we should make it. I'm not talking to you.
I would ask that the audience please limit interruptions. Sir, would you please limit your interruption to
I would
the
like
end,
you to
please?
check out the website, the Delmarva
pausing
PTC, and see what it is. You know, outings teachers can cause real harm, and that's not acceptable, right?
Sure.
You cannot denigrate people, insult teachers. I'm an educator, fourth generation. I stand up for teachers and for all students.
Okay, let's take a... All right, we're just going to take a quick break here. I'm going to ask again that everyone, audience members, candidates, be respectful of each other. We're not here to have opinions on each other's opinions. We're here to hear everyone's opinions. So if you have comments that you want to share with the candidates later on, more than welcome to talk to them after the forum, but please be respectful of this forum and do not interrupt. So next we will move to Ms. Berdingham-Slithowski. You have 90 seconds.
I don't like to segregate people, whether it be by race or by gender. I've always taught my students that everyone is equal. I treated everyone the same and expected my students to do also. Let us all try to get along and not look at our differences, but look at how we are alike and our common interests.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, 90 seconds.
I don't pretend to be an expert in this area. If you asked me something on the building commission, I could give you a lot on that. But in this area, I don't claim to be an expert. I'm still trying to learn the difference in the pronouns between zir and here and all of the transgender pronouns that you use. But I'm always willing to learn. And one thing that I go by is that our Constitution says everybody's created equal. I believe that. We practice it throughout my military career, we practice it down at UMES, and we practice it in church. All men are created equal. Now we have guidelines. We don't make these guidelines up sitting out there at the board. We have guidelines that come down to us from the state and federal government. Do I agree with them? No, I don't. They got a lot of strange ideas that I just don't like. But I think you need to just stick to the basic. All men are created equal, and treat them that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ennis, 90 seconds.
String on that. Wicomico County is a diverse county. Our schools are diverse. We're a microcosm of our county. We have a number of students in our district that need everyone's support, no matter what they are looking at as far as their gender. We have students transitioning. We have students who are still struggling with understanding what they're doing. We need to treat each one of them equally. We need to treat each one of them with support. They all have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
It's one thing to say that we need to be inclusive, but in fact, many of these students are marginalized because of their sexual orientation. I want to reiterate something Dr. Arvey said. Recently, one of our best teachers at Y High, who is a coordinator or sponsor, I'm not sure of the exact title, of the LGBTQ club at that school. And she was identified by name by Mr. Lombardo's organization. This puts her at risk for some of these people in our community and elsewhere. So these marginalized people have to be protected, and I give that teacher a lot of credit for doing this and trying to bring them into the community and giving them a club of their own. And it's a disgrace to call her out by name this way.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Excellent question. Everyone, no matter who they are, under the Constitution, should have equal rights. All men are created equal under God. And everyone that enters the school should be respected, should be included, and to be a part of education, equal access to education, no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from. However, where the school system crosses the line and goes wrong is when they identify a group and they give preference and they promote and they endorse a certain group and then requires other children to affirm certain beliefs or to affirm certain behaviors. That's where the school system crosses the line. And the parents across this county say that is crossing the line, and I would have to agree with them. And so school is to focus on core subject matter. Academics has nothing to do with someone's sexuality. What someone does behind the scenes in their own bedroom, that is their business. They're always to be respected, always to be nice to people. But if someone is forced to affirm and accept that, that is not right, in my opinion. And so we need to be careful where our scope is as a school and to respect everyone and never bully anyone, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our final but not least candidate, Mr. Brown. You have 90 seconds.
Wicomico County, as all school systems, have the task of educating all students as equals, no matter what their race, no matter what their gender. Wicomico County does a pretty good job. Is it perfect? No. There are always going to be challenges, and in the area where we have to have challenges or where the challenges meet us, we have to meet them head on and find solutions to make it work. Unfortunately, throughout the county and throughout the world, this has become a hot topic, but we have to confront it. We have to find ways to make it work, and we have to find ways to make all students in each school feel safe in that environment so that they can learn and move on from that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question will come from Mr. Chambers.
This question's for the candidates from District 2. School shootings and more general violence continues to present a problem across the United States. What can Wicomico County do to keep students, teachers, and administrators safe during the school day?
What we have done already, and the 7 of us that serve on the board, in the last number of years, all the school vestibules are now secure. You have to check in to get into school. All buildings are air conditioned, and you say, how does that make them safer? Well, they shouldn't have windows open and doors propped open where people can slide in the side door and start shooting, which has happened in Uvalde and other places. We've accomplished those 2 things. We also have 10 SROs, the deputies. If I'm reelected and the board supports me, I think we need an SRO in all schools. People say, oh, well, you don't need that in an elementary school. I think in today's time, you need an SRO in every school, if no other reason to send the message to the bad people, we're protecting our students. And so we need to also continually train our teachers and staff and personnel on safety measures. What happens when there is a school shooting? What happens when someone's loose in the school with a gun? We need to keep doing that, which we're doing. As far as internally, there's also internal safety with students who bully each other and cause problems. We need more mental health people, more social workers. Maybe we can get to the bottom of it before it turns into a disaster. But mainly, we need SROs to protect us from the outside people, and there are bad people everywhere. And we have to face that fact. It's upon us now. It's 2022. We have to do that. We need one at every school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's a sad coincidence that we're having this forum immediately following a school shooting, and we had our first forum immediately following a school shooting. My entire career as a teacher was spent post-Columbine. So I can tell you, as any teacher can tell you, that after a school shooting, I went into my classroom the next day and looked to see what I would do. So I thank the board for making sure that all of our vestibules now are safer. I thank the school board for the fact that teachers in Wicomico County no longer have to leave their classrooms in order to lock their doors. I thank Wicomico County for making sure that we all have air conditioning so that the days I spent at Bennett Middle with all the doors wide open and chicken fans are a thing of the past. I thank them. And yes, I agree that we need to keep our schools safe from outside, but at the same time, we currently have a teacher at one of our schools who's suffering from a concussion that she got from a fight inside the building from students. So yes, we jump when there's a school shooting to think about that, but it's the day-to-day where we have school fights, where we have threats against teachers, where we have threats against other students, and where we have fights in the schools. And that does require us to start spending some resources in ways that lower those risks. We need to find ways to de-escalate. We need people trained in de-escalation. We need to make sure staff is trained in de-escalation. We need to work better on the management systems of how we move students around the building so that we don't have these groupings where people are more likely to be disgruntled and have fights. We need better health supports for our students in the building because that's where they spend 180 days of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Mr. Pope.
This question is for the candidates from District 3. What do you think is being done well in Wicomico County Public Schools? And what would you do to encourage that success?
We'll start with Ms. Bishop, 90 seconds.
Yeah, could you repeat that
We're
again?
having
Sure thing. Yeah,
difficulty
absolutely.
understanding.
It's for District 3. What do you think is being done well in Wicomico County Public Schools? And what would you do to encourage that success?
I think that we have a great vocational studies and industrial arts area. I think that is doing really well, but I do think we need to offer some more options to both males and females, expand it, and maybe start a little bit earlier, maybe the last year of middle school, so they have a little bit more time to work on that trade. Not all of our children are going to go to college. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is a great student. It doesn't appeal to everybody, and a lot of our students are just not financially able. So I think that is a great part of our school system, but I do think it needs to be expanded to offer more to our students. One other thing I think should be added to that, though, is driver's ed. I really do think that should be brought in to improve the school system. We have so many students in this community that can't afford the $400 to take the class. They don't necessarily have family available to drive them to the class and pick them up. It's my belief that it absolutely helped no one that was removed from the county school system. So in addition to the vocational and industrial arts, I say we bring driver's ed back.
Thank you. Mr. Arvey, 90 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with what Susan said. CTE is a great program. Just to give a statistic, the high school graduation rate in our county is 83%, whereas the state is 87%. So we are below the state in terms of high school graduation, but our CTE graduation rate is 97%. What we need to do is to invest in a dedicated facility for CTE, started at the middle school level so that we can produce a lot more tradespeople because these are good paying jobs. Not everybody has to go to college. Those who would go to college, they would find the way, but we can find productive citizens with good, well-paying jobs through the CTE program. Having said that, what else do we do well? The Next Gen program is a gem. We are going to have a feature in the National Geographic channel about, the Discovery channel about how good the program is. Every year we send kids to Ivy League schools. The total number of scholarships that our students get is in multi-million dollars. None of this has been spoken about in the media, right? I'll give an example. Salisbury Middle School had a science expo this spring. We had more parents and students working the displays rather than the parents who actually came to see those displays. That tells you how much we actually value education in this county. We need more parental involvement because the future jobs are in STEM because these are high-paying jobs. You know, we could start coding in middle school, and that's what we need to focus on. So we have some excellent STEM programs. We need to expand it. There shouldn't be a cap on the 50 students that we have in the Next Gen program now, but then anybody and everybody who is able to take it should be able to do it. We have a lottery. What we
Thank
fail
you.
to do is, we are not investing in the future.
All right, our next question will come from Mr. Chambers.
Okay, this question is for the at-large candidates, and it is from the audience. Pretty simple. Should the school system implement financial literacy as a graduation requirement?
Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
Well, I don't think it'd take me 90 seconds to answer that question. I would say absolutely. I mean, the kids come out of school and they don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know anything about the banking system. And they get in big trouble. They get credit cards that they don't pay off, and they end up having outrageous. I mean, my kids did this when they got, they went to college, and all of a sudden they were offered these credit cards. Oh man, this is free money, Yes, absolutely, we need to teach financial literacy to keep these kids from getting into these situations.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Yes, financial literacy K through 12 is absolutely necessary. I would like to see it as a graduation requirement. Students that graduate, they even start in high school. Those credit card mailers come to them, and you could fill this out and have it, and yeah, they fall victim to it, and before you know it, they're in debt. And so it's important to equip them to not only understand credit, understand investment, understand how to balance a checkbook, understand how to create a budget, and not fall victim to predatory car loans when they get out, because that's another trap that students get sucked into, and also understand their obligation under student loans. A lot of people think, I'm just going to go to school, I'll take out a loan, and not think anything of the long-term consequences. So it is vital that they are equipped with the necessary life skills to make sound financial decisions in their road ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from, Ms. Ennis, 90 seconds. I apologize.
It's okay. I do think it's important that every student be exposed to financial literacy. As far as it being a graduation requirement, I'm not going to go that far, because every time you add something else, then you have to take something from the curriculum. You can't keep adding without taking something out. Financial literacy is key. It is crucial for some students to understand that before they get themselves into that credit card debt. And I do believe we should be offering that course for all students. I'm just not there yet with the graduation requirement. I'm not quite sure what would we take out of the curriculum, what would we take out of the graduation requirements for this.
Thank you. Next question comes from Mr. Pope.
This question is for the candidates from District 2, also audience question. We have quite a few along this line. Some of them specifically reference the 1619 project, others specifically reference just the teaching of difficult topics. So how would you think about or give guidance on the appropriate way to teach difficult issues from the past, including slavery and segregation?
We'll start with Ms. Miller, 90 seconds.
So you're going to ask the math teacher this, right? The state of Maryland provides the content standards that our school systems teach. Wicomico County Board of Education approves the curriculum materials that those teachers use to teach it. I think we can all agree that we need the honest history of the United States to be taught. I think we can all agree that teachers should be politically neutral within the classroom. I think beyond that, it's a distraction from the real problems that we have in our schools. I have been asking since June for a certain board member, I'm not going to say his name, John Palmer, to give me evidence that CRT is in our classrooms, and I have been waiting, tick-tock, tick-tock, since June for evidence that it is occurring, and I have not gotten it yet. So I have not seen evidence that it's in our schools. Mr. Palmer assures me that he wouldn't vote for it if it came through as a curriculum material. So I'm just not sure that it's an actual discussion topic other than a distraction. I would much rather focus on increasing the student achievement of our students and making sure that our schools are safe.
Thank you. Mr. Malone, 90 seconds.
Thank you. So history is facts. We teach the facts of history. History is in the past. What happened, happened, and we teach that. I know what this question is leading to is there CRT in the schools? Is it being taught? The 1619 project. It's not being taught because we approved the curriculum and we never approved that. But I will say this, if we want our students to be critical thinkers when they graduate from high school, and I know I want mine to, there's nothing wrong with discussing CRT or 1619 project. That's different than teaching it. I'm not saying teach it, I'm saying discuss it, get their feelings, their opinions. They watch the news, they hear about this from their family and friends. A good, talented teacher will be able to lead that discussion, not lead them to an opinion or lead them to what they should feel, but teach them how to critically think about these things. If we can't graduate students as critical thinkers, then we should just close the schools and go home. That's a waste of time. We can teach them math, history, and English. You can teach that. But we need critical thinking students. And in the private sector for 43 years, I interview potential bankers all the time who haven't been able to balance a checkbook and they have a master's degree. You ask them a really thought-provoking question and they give you a very strange look. You got to be able to critically think to survive in the world after you graduate, no matter what you do. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Chambers.
Candidates, this is for all of you. What is your view on merit pay for teachers? Do you believe in using incentives to attract highly effective teachers or teachers in shortage fields such as math and science?
We'll begin with Mr. Malone, 90 seconds.
Well, back to me. Okay. Yeah, I believe in merit pay. I also believe in the incentive pay. Again, I've worked in the private sector for 43 years, and people that perform get paid the best. People that don't get paid less, and eventually you weed them out. Incentives are for those people that really go above and beyond routinely. You can pay the incentives quarterly, annually, whatever. The Board of Education this year, for the first time in history that I know of, we had an incentive pay to all staff. It was a retention bonus because we need to keep good employees. But if we want to, again, have the best and brightest teachers who will teach and train and educate and teach critical thinking to the best and brightest students, you got to have the best people, and you have to do merit pay. The best get paid well, the others get paid less, and eventually they go out. Incentives would really make a big mark because those people go above and beyond, like a bonus in a bank where you sell enough loans, you get to another level, you get a bonus. So we'd have to figure out how it all works, but absolutely I believe in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, 90 seconds.
So merit pay. Of course, as a math teacher, I would love to see math teachers paid more. And I would love to see more math teachers being created because they're paying more. The question is, can we find enough by just increasing the pay? Can we retain them by just increasing the pay? I would argue that beyond paying them more, we need to make the atmosphere in which they're teaching better. It doesn't do us any good to hire a new teacher if we can't keep it. We can't keep the teachers we're hiring, and to my understanding, we've lost some teachers already this year. If we can't keep them, then it doesn't matter what we're paying them. We're going to be turning them over and turning them over and turning them over. So by all means, merit pay, by all means, attract younger teachers, but let's make sure that we're giving them an environment that they're willing to stay in. Otherwise, it's a waste of money.
Thank you. Ms. Beach, you have 90 seconds.
Oh.
Just keep it.
Thank you. You know, good pay is a great thing. Money attracts people, but I don't think it's enough. I think that we need teachers who love being around kids and that love to teach. That's their passion. So I think we need both. You can find people and pay them well that really don't like their job, but they're there for the pay. I don't think that's what we need for our children. They need people to look up to and learn from, and people that love being in our school system. That's what our children need. And I think that's what we need to concentrate on. How do we attract those people? You know, other than just with money.
Thank you. Mr. Arby, 90 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Merit pay is very important. I think you need to distinguish the outperformers with a higher pay. That's one way to incentivize and motivate them. Having said that, the current blueprint does actually increase the base pay to $60,000 by 2025, and then the average increases will be significant. But that's not enough, because we are competing with private employers who are going to pay twice as much with teachers with the same degrees. These are people with graduate degrees. They could make twice the pay. So teaching is a calling. So people come to teach because they think they can make a difference. And I think we need to embrace it and run with it. Additionally, you want teachers to be able to do the job. Let me give an example. In a middle school, a teacher is required to monitor the halls and the bathrooms for 80 minutes a week. That's time taken away from planning. Who are the people who are actually assisting the teachers, the instructional assistants? These instructional assistants are paid lower than what a fast food worker makes. They make the teachers' life much easier because they assist the teachers. You need to pay them a living wage to the instructional assistants. So it's just not a merit play. You need to look at the whole structure, compensation structure as a whole, and then strategically make sure that we're able to retain and also incentivize and have a mentoring program, bring in more minority teachers, diversify the teacher pool so that it reflects the demographic of students.
Thank you. Ms. Brigham-Sadowski, 90 seconds.
Teachers need to be encouraged to be the best that they can be. When I began my career in Delaware, there were no certification requirements. All you needed was a BS, and you didn't have to take any other credits forever if you didn't want to. I went ahead and the district paid for my master's and for my doctorate work. But I was told by other teachers in the district that they resented the fact that I made more money than they did, even though I had worked hard for the master's and my 60 credits beyond the master's. I was also told, why do you do all the extra things you do? You make the rest of us look bad. So we need merit pay. We need something to encourage these teachers to be the best that they can be.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, 90 seconds.
As a board member, if you look back, you'll find that I'm probably one of the few candidates that has never been endorsed by the teachers union. Right, isn't it? And that reason is because I don't agree with their values. It just doesn't hit me right. We have teachers right now in our school system. They're very, very good. They're excellent. They're afraid to speak out because they know they're going to be retaliated against. And that's just wrong. It's just wrong. They should be able to speak out. Pay is always a good incentive, but also working conditions is also a good incentive. So we've got to stop this kind of stuff. Pay on the shore, I think we're probably one of the highest right now in our starting salaries, and by 2024, we will meet or probably surpass the $60,000 starting salary. And I think that's excellent. And you would be surprised. I just want to digress 1 minute. Ms. Miller wants to keep talking about CRT. Well, she would be surprised about how many teachers that I support meet with me in different places around the county to say what is going on with CRT in our schools. And it will be coming out. Just be patient. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next, now we'll go to Ms. Ennis. You have 90 seconds.
It's okay, you can skip me if you want to. We have a $10,000 teaching bonus for those teachers who earn a National Board Teaching certification. Any teacher who wants to earn that bonus can get that coursework for free. All they have to do is to put in the time to get that all that coursework finished, submit their paperwork, and they have the opportunity to earn $10,000 more a year. Several years ago, the state offered actually a bonus to teachers working in low-performing schools. We had teachers who were earning additional funds because they were working in specific schools. imagine that you are a teacher doing the same job in another school and you're not getting that bonus. And so I'd like for you to consider, merit pay, what is it based on? Incentives, what is it based on? I'm all for hiring incentives. I think, again, we are looking at, those positions that we truly need, math teachers. We truly need, all of our teachers, but again, the idea, you have to take a look at what are you basing your decision on? Who's making that decision that this teacher is going above the other teachers? And what is it doing to the collegial work within the school? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
Yes, just to follow up on something Ms. Senna said. Merit pay is difficult. This is not like rewarding a salesman if he sells more fuller brushes or something like that. How do you reward merit for arts teachers or reading teachers versus classroom teachers? How do you compare the performance in these different areas? There are some non-academic teachers who do excellent jobs, but it would be very hard to evaluate them and compare them to a classroom teacher. So merit pay, I think, is a very difficult thing to do in public schools because you're not comparing apples to apples. I think incentives, as Dr. Ennis said, are good. We need teachers. And I also want to add something else. Salaries matter, as Dr. Arvey said. We are in competition for teachers. We have a shortage of teachers. We have a shortage of substitutes. We can't get substitutes. Salaries matter. We are in competition with the other schools in the region. Now, I think it was Mr. Palmer said, we're going to be paying $60,000 for starting teachers by 2024. Wow, that's the first time I've heard that. I think we're at $52,000 now. Is that what you said, Mr. Palmer?
That's a blueprint.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you said?
read the blueprint, you'll find it.
It's in the
It's in the
blueprint.
blueprint.
Mandated.
What I heard was 2024, which surprised me a lot. The blueprint, I think, does say 2026, and I hope we can reach that target, and I expect we will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. All right, Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
All right, as a business owner, I look at things, I'm a capitalist. As far as how the school system operates, it's moving towards more of a socialist model where a teacher may have a ration to teach. I believe in a teacher working hard. If a teacher works hard and demonstrates the time and what they put in and pouring out their heart to their students, I believe in incentives. I believe in rewarding good workers. You talk to a lot of teachers across the county. Some of them, I've known teachers that have stayed at school till 10 o'clock at night. I mean, they say, I didn't sign up for this for the paycheck. I signed up for the love of the student and for teaching. However, a teacher should be compensated for what they do, absolutely. And so I want to encourage that, but what you see come out a lot in the influence of the unions, oh, let's just throw money at things, let's throw money at things. There's way more to the picture than money. We need a safe environment for our teachers. We need to know that we want them to get up in the morning and be excited about coming to school and teaching. And right now, we don't have that. And we need to get that environment safe. We need to encourage our teachers. We need to be there for them. And, there's a lot of discussion on this, more than can be answered in 90 seconds, but I absolutely support incentivizing our teachers and growing together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, 90 seconds.
We live in a competitive society, and in order to maintain and recruit the best possible workforce, we have to pay them well. Incentives are good. If you take a teacher, as many of you have in your workplace, you have individuals that are good workers, and you have some that are better, and some are the best. The best workers do a great job, and the good workers look at them, and if they find out that they're getting rewards, they're going to work harder so that they can get the rewards. So I think it's a good thing as a stepping stone to encourage all teachers to move forward and so that they can also get those incentives. But in our society today, we've got to do it. It's no question about it. Think about all the individuals that we've lost to other counties right here in Maryland and across the bridge because the pay is higher, because they do pay incentives. So I think Wicomico County would be prudent in doing so.
Thank you. And Mr. Angelo, 90 seconds, please.
All right, yeah, what I'm gonna say is gonna sound very similar to what Alan just said, but I definitely think we need to incentivize teachers who do go above and beyond, that we should definitely make sure that we recognize that in their they should see that in their paychecks. However, I think when it comes to teacher retention, raising the pay won't really keep a teacher if the environment isn't well. So we have to look into the environment. We can raise the pay and reach the 60,000 that the blueprint calls for, but we also have to look into the environment so we can see why they're leaving. We have to have a holistic solution to the issue. So not only raising the pay and incentivizing them for the teachers who do well and go above and beyond, so like the teachers who do tutoring and one-to-one with students, stuff like that, they should get incentivized financially, but we have to also look in the environment as to why they are leaving.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Pope.
Candidates, this is a question for Districts 4 and 5. Are you satisfied with the provision of special education services in county schools? Why or why not? And if you wanted to make a change, what would that be?
We'll start with Ms. Brittingham-Sothowski, 90 seconds.
Before I answer the question, I'd like to read from the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. By July the 1st, 2026, starting teacher's salary must be $60,000. Every candidate this should be your Bible. This is what you're going to be adhering to for the next 10 years. We are so fortunate in Wicomico County to have a special ed supervisor by the name of Bonnie Walston. She is a caring person, and all of the people who work under her have the same caring feeling that she does for her students. Is everything perfect? Bonnie will be the first to tell you that it is not. But our special ed department, especially with our summer programs for the students, they are very, very caring and loving teachers. I have had the privilege of going into many classrooms where there are special ed students being mainstreamed. Some of them have one-on-ones. They have a person with them all day long. They have medical problems, but yet they are in a caring, loving atmosphere. And I think we should be very proud in Wicomico County of our special education program.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, 90 seconds.
I guess I'll be the difficult one again. I'm not entirely pleased what's going on in special ed. And I have a long history of this. You see, I had a special ed child. And whenever we went to school, it was always a us against them type of situation in these meetings, and I didn't like it. We always had to prove our point, but then having somebody who wasn't totally qualified or said he overqualified, was more qualified than the doctors, he would rule, and it wasn't to our advantage. So for a while, we took our kids out of school. My dining room became grade school. I lost it for 3 years. We then put them into private school, and we returned them to public school because I didn't want them to, in high school, because I didn't want them to miss out on proms, football, baseball, and things like that. I think we can do a lot more. This feeling of us against them has got to stop. It's got to be, what does this student need and how do we do it? The bickering back and forth has got to stop. The funding, whatever people are saying, well, we can't fund that, I don't want to hear it. We can fund other things. If we can fund pickleball, we can fund special education for children. And I'm a firm believer in that. So I believe we're moving in the right direction, but I believe we have an opportunity to make some big changes in special education. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a question for the candidates in District 1. This is an audience question. Can you articulate your view on the most impactful pedagogical strategies for student engagement and learning?
We'll start with Mr. Brown, 90 seconds.
I think to begin with, we've got to have parent involvement. If we get our parents involved from early on, as I indicated earlier with pre-K and kindergarten, we get them hooked, and being a part of the process, I think we'll achieve the goals that we're aiming for. One of the things that I think that happens far too often is that many students are left not being supervised. And when they come to school, the teacher has the idea or has a job of not only teaching but also parenting. And that presents a big problem, and it's a learning block to begin with. So in order for us to move forward and to provide an enjoyable, rewarding day for each one of these students, we've got to start and get more parent involvement in with our kids. The thing that I'm most pleased about here recently is that we've gotten a number of our community partners involved in the school system, not only the businesses, but also the faith-based areas. And this has helped immensely in helping kids after school and helping them to bridge that gap and the liking. We've lost a lot over the last couple of years with the pandemic. And the reason because of that is because these students who were left home alone were not being supervised, did not get the understanding or the value that many students got when their parents were there to protect them and to keep them on task. And I look at that from my own son and daughter-in-law and my two grandsons. Fortunately, my daughter-in-law was able to stay home with her kids and kept them on task. But you're talking about a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old and having them stay on task. It's a monumental task.
Thank you.
And not only that, pre-kindergarten and first grade, it's awful.
Mr. Angelo, 90 seconds.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I really want to make sure I heard the question correctly. You said what was the most impactful thing for student achievement? Because I think I misheard the question.
Can you articulate your view on the most impactful pedagogical strategies for student engagement and learning?
Okay, yeah, I definitely think having smaller class sizes is definitely a good thing to have. We can definitely try to do that. As right now, as with our infrastructure, with our schools, it's kind of impossible to shrink a class if you don't have an extra classroom. So I think, as for my personal experience, smaller classrooms is definitely the most impactful thing for student achievement. So yeah, I think that would be my answer. I think trying to expand, trying to make so we have more classes that are smaller, I think is probably the most impactful thing we can do.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Pope.
This question is specifically for Mr. Lombardo. We did get versions of this from the audience, but we had prepared one, so I'm just going to read that. A recent article in Delmarva Now reports on your participation in a series of classes offered by the Institute on the Constitution, specifically a class called the Maryland Constitution course. The course was taught by David Whitney, a former chaplain for the League of the South, a group that has been identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as an extremely racist hate group. Why did you attend a course taught by an avowed racist? And did you learn policies or practices that you would like to bring to Wicomico County schools that would help prepare students for college and career success?
Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Well, that's a loaded question, but I can say one thing: fake news. I took that class to learn the Constitution, U.S. Constitution and Maryland Constitution, and it was an excellent course. The instructor was absolutely phenomenal. There wasn't a hint of racism taught by that instructor. The book that was used for the instruction in that class was absolutely great. The detail was phenomenal. I've read the Constitution as a high school student. I've never gotten into the in-depth workings of the Constitution. It was absolutely amazing. I would absolutely take the course again. As far as whatever news source put that out, it was the most pathetic journalism I've ever seen. It had no supporting evidence. It was an accusation, and it is complete folly. And so as far as the instruction in our schools, I think that everybody should learn the Constitution as far as our students go. Everyone here who is being sworn into office, they swear on the Constitution. They should know what it says, because if they don't know what it says and they don't understand it, it is perjury. Did you ever think of that? So it is important to me to understand the Constitution and to know my role in government, and it is to protect everyone's God-given rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Chambers.
This is the final question, and it's for the candidates from District 3. Our schools already hold PTA meetings and other events, have community involvement committees, send weekly messages to parents via phone and email. How do you propose to increase community involvement in schools, and what do you hope to achieve through this involvement?
We'll start with Mr. Arvey. 90 seconds.
So yesterday I was at the Salisbury Middle School PTA at 6 p.m., 5 p.m. There were more teachers than parents actually attending the PTA. That's a disappointment. 70% of the kids' time is actually spent at home. Parental involvement is the single largest indicator for student success. So we need more parents to be involved. But that also entails why aren't parents being there? We have a huge section of the population. We have a poverty rate that's 40% more than the state. We have a significant minority population. We have 36 languages being spoken in our county. 10% of our students are actually foreign-born, who are non-native English speakers. Maybe their parents are working 2 or 3 jobs. They don't have the time to do it. We need to have alternate ways to keep them engaged. Maybe meet them on the weekend. Some things that will work. Maybe go to their neighborhoods and then probably do a town hall. We need to make it easy for them to participate. We cannot wait for them to come to us. That's one way to do it. I don't know how many people have access to technology. They don't have internet. Maybe they may not read the emails. Maybe they don't understand the language. Even though it's bilingual or trilingual, it's been sent. So we need to find creative ways to actually reach to our parents to get them involved, because having parents engaged will ensure that the students are successful. And we need to have community partners, faith-based organizations, all kinds. It takes a village to raise a child, and I truly believe that, because we will be failing our children if we do not give them a proper and a great education.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, 90 seconds.
Communication is key, particularly between the parents and the board, but also between the teachers and the board. It's something that definitely needs to be addressed and worked on. Currently, the parents in this county have really been shut down by the board's new policy on speaking at a board meeting. Teachers are afraid to speak up for fear of retaliation. I would love to see this change, love to see it addressed. Maybe possibly with smaller meetings outside of the big board meetings, smaller meetings with the board and teachers, smaller meetings with the board and parents. But you can't shut parents out and expect them to be willing to communicate or to be able to communicate with the school.
Thank you. So as was mentioned, that was our final question for the candidates, but of course, we're going to allow them some time to wrap things up here, kind of give you all a little outro to leave you with before you hit the polls on November 8th. So I believe with the general questions, the first one started with Mr. Brown, then we went to Mr. Angelo, so that means that we will start with Mr. Malone. So you'll get 90 seconds for your closing statement. Again, just whatever you'd like to give to the voters on their way out.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to be reelected to the board because pre-pandemic, we were improving graduation rates. Student assessments were not great, but they were better than they are now. We were close to a public-private partnership on an art school. We had a lot of things in play with Dr. Hanlon, the superintendent, and her team that all got put on hold. It was 2 years fighting the war of the pandemic. I want to be a part of that next wave with Dr. Stauffer and 6 other folks who will join me on the board to improve graduation rates again, get student achievement assessments up again, make teachers feel welcome and wanted in our schools, make the schools even safer than we've made them already. I want to be a part of that. One thing that everyone needs to remember is public education is the biggest economic driver of any district, county, or area. I don't think people realize that. It's a huge economic driver. So if we want this economy in this county to grow, we have to make sure public education grows and does well. So I want to be a part of that boat that moves forward, that ship that rolls on. I want to be a part of that, and those are the things that we'll do if I'm reelected.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, 90 seconds.
Sorry. I've been all over District 2 since I filed to run for office. I've knocked on probably over 1,500 doors, from Tyaskin to Mardella to Sharptown, Hebron, Eden, Allen, Quantico, Fruitland, and my part of Salisbury. And I've spoken to a lot of parents who felt neglected. The west side of town often does. I hope that I can bring my experience, having taught on the west side of town. I started at Northwestern and understand that feeling. My husband graduated from Mardella, so I understand that feeling. I hope I can bring my experience, having taught in this county, having worked with the families of Wicomico County, having built relationships with those families and with those students, having always strived for high achievement with my students. I hope I can bring that knowledge and that experience to the board, because we do need people who've had more recent experience in the classrooms of Wicomico County. I have a great respect for Mr. Malone. I just think my skill set is different. Yes, we need bankers, but I think we also need people who have been in the classrooms of Wicomico County, and I have done that. I had high standards when I taught. I will continue to have high standards as your board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, 90 seconds.
Again, Susan Beecham, running for District 3. Since making the decision to run for a school board seat, I cannot begin to tell you the number of phone calls that I have received from parents and teachers alike, and the message was the same from every single one of them, and that is our school system is in trouble, our children are in trouble. The philosophy that we keep hearing is our hands are tied, there's nothing we can do. That is not working anymore from the parents, for the parents of this county. Change needs to be made. Our children need to start thriving again. It's imperative. I have fresh eyes, I have a fresh perspective. You know, the board of a bank is not all bankers. It's people from all different aspects of life to offer different opinions and perspective. I have a different perspective. I ask you all to vote for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arvey, 90 seconds.
First, I want to thank everybody for your spending your time here, because you care about education. And I want to thank every single candidate in the panel, because it takes a lot of time, treasure, and talent away from your family to run for a position like this. This is my first foray into public service, because I think education is fundamentally transformative to any community. We are hurting. We are the second lowest funded county in the state of Maryland. We are the poorest county, second poorest county in the wealthiest state in the nation. This is unacceptable. If we as a county come together and invest in education, you can see results, and we are not doing it. The maintenance of effort which the county council is doing is unacceptable. We are not planning for the future. We need to respect our teachers, because they are our neighbors, people whom we go to church with, who the kids actually play ball with. We need to respect them. We cannot denigrate, insult teachers whatsoever. Stand up for the teachers, invest in education. It takes every one of us to do our best. Whether I win or lose, I will support Susan. I will support every candidate, because it takes the whole of us to move forward, and we need to do it. Because a nation's future and security depends on a strong public education. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Brittingham-Sadowski, 90 seconds.
I have already proven myself as a leader in Wicomico County, and I take my election to the BOE very seriously. Last year, I attended 113 meetings and events associated with Wicomico County Public Schools. 66 of these were during the day. A person with a full-time job, as my opponent, would need to ask permission from his employer 66 times in order to fulfill his BOE duties. If you have a family, 4 children and a wife, for example, as does my opponent, 47 times he would need to check with his family to see if there was a conflict. By the way, where is my opponent? He's not here. He ran against me 4 years ago. In these 2 cycles, there have been 2 TV interviews, 9 forums, and he hasn't shown up for any of them. However, he did manage to take 3 days off to do the early voting for the Democrat booth. I understand from his employer, he's taking 5 days off to manage the booth for early voting. He can take time to manage a political booth, but he cannot take time to meet the voters and answer the questions about what he would do if he were a BOE member.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, 90 seconds.
90 seconds to say everything. Okay. I'd just like to maybe comment on a couple things that I've heard during this meeting. Literacy, I hear a lot on literacy, financial literacy. I had asked the superintendent to get together a list of where and how much financial literacy is taught in our schools, and I've asked for it to be put on our website. I don't know how far along that is, but you are going to be amazed at how much time is devoted to financial literacy. Sometimes it's just hard getting people to retain some things, if you remember back to your high school days, but I'm telling you, it is being done. Funding. I'm always been deep into funding way back. That's back when we used to have lunches that were paid for by my turn to cook and all of that. None of that's being done now. School board eats what's in the cafeteria, and it's really good. So funding is one of my chief things. Our county council and our legislatures have given me, or when I ask for something, everything that I have wanted, I have been able to get so far. Look at our buildings, no more chicken fans throughout schools. We got good buildings. Number 1 in the state in maintenance and upkeep of these buildings, we're doing excellent.
Thank you.
Look at the new schools and was that 10 or was that it?
That was it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
All right. Ms. Ennis, 90 seconds.
I'm going to start this the last forum the same way that I started the first forum, and that is to ask you what it is that you want. What do you want for the students of Wicomico County? What do you want for the parents of those students, those families? What do you want for the teachers, the administrators of Wicomico County Public Schools? With early voting starting Thursday, you have a choice. You have a choice between leadership, and you have a choice between sound bites. Are you looking for someone that has the background and the leadership skills, or are you looking for someone with those sound bites? We have real issues in our schools. The behavior of our students is creating a mental health crisis, not only for some of the other students, but also for our teachers. We have teachers who are struggling themselves because of the behavior of some of our students. We have an achievement gap. We have a low performance rate in reading and math that NAEP has finally decided they need to bring to the forefront with the national media. We need to get our families back into our schools. We need to get our communities joining together with our schools. We cannot afford to graduate students in Wicomico County that do not have the necessary skills in math, reading, science, and social studies. And I will tell you, that our teachers are not groomers. Our teachers are not indoctrinating your students.
Thank you.
Our teachers want to teach. Thank you.
Mr. Demko, 90 seconds.
So why did I decide to do this? At my age, who needs it? But I decided to do this because I was upset about what I was hearing locally and nationally about groups and individuals demonizing teachers, as Ms. Senes just said, calling them groomers, indoctrinators. This is nonsense. Teachers become teachers for a lot of different reasons, many because they love kids, or they love teaching, or they have a love of learning. Myself, I became a teacher when I was 60 years old in public schools. I did it because I had a feeling for kids who were learning English as a second language, because my grandmother never learned English. So there are a lot of different reasons, but they don't become teachers because they want to groom or indoctrinate children. That is nonsense. The other thing that was upsetting me is these groups were turning parents against teachers. In order for a school to be successful, parents and teachers have to collaborate. You cannot have a successful school if you have parents and groups calling teachers by names and just antagonizing them from the parents. That's terrible. Anyway, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo, 90 seconds.
Excuses, excuses. Here we have the status quo. The status quo has failed our children. It is a fact.
Please allow him to speak.
It is a fact, and everybody knows it. It is time to come to academic proficiency. We need to focus on our students. We cannot continue this way. Failure at every angle. School improvement has been a failure. Those who are in charge of school improvement has been a failure. We can't continue. We need to retool. Those who have been part of the system for so long, they're out of touch with the citizens. They don't even know what they're doing anymore. We need to return to traditional teaching. Common Core has failed our children, and they just keep beating the dead horse, pushing it down on the dolly, just thinking it just might live. It's not. It's dead. We need to retool. We need to return to traditional teaching. Our kids need to learn. They need to read and write. They need to write on paper instead of these computers that are dumbing them down. Computers are a good supplement in the classroom, but not a replacement for pencil and paper. Financial literacy. We absolutely have to do this. And so school safety, another thing, absolutely a high priority. We can't play anymore, folks. This is serious, and I am ready. I am committed. I will work circles around these people. It is time to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, 90 seconds.
As I indicated earlier, I received my early education from the Wicomico County Public Schools. That education gave me the foundation to go on to college and have a successful career in teaching and moving through the ranks in the last 12 years as assistant superintendent for the school system here. Is it a perfect school system? Of course not. We have challenges every day, and it's up to us together to meet those challenges, to come up to a working solution so that we can have an enjoyable and rewarding day for every student that comes through the doors. I have a number of friends, including my wife and my son, who received their foundation of education here in Wicomico County, relatives, and like many of you, you were able to achieve the goals that you have so far because many of you were educated here in Wicomico County and educated elsewhere. So what I would like to do is to continue to work on the Board of Education so that I may give back to the community that has done so much for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Angelo, bring us home. You got 90 seconds.
I would like to thank PACE and the Greater Salisbury Committee for hosting this forum. I would like to thank everyone who came out here tonight. An educated voter is the best type of voter, so thank you for taking the time to learn more about the candidates. I just wanted to let you guys know, I didn't get to introduce myself. I'm a first-generation Haitian American, and I'm a graduate of Y-High. I graduated not that long ago. I graduated in 2021. So I do have a very fresh perspective of what's going on in the school system, and I really want to bring that to the board. And I also wanted to let you guys also know, I've also been endorsed by groups all over the political spectrum, not only for this, my platform, which you can read on my website, lukeangelot.com, but also for the effort I've put into this campaign. I don't know how many doors I've knocked on. I've kind of lost count now. I've had people cry when I knock on the door because I'm the only candidate who's ever even went to the neighborhood to talk to them, let them know that I'm running for office. I've knocked on doors in the hood, the suburbs, and off the roads less traveled of District 1. I really want to make sure we have an active leader who is going to be a loud advocate on behalf of the Black, the Latino, and the immigrant community, all groups that I'm a part of. If you want that, I hope that on your vote, either vote early, which starts in like 2 days, or you can vote on Election Day on November 8th. If you want an active, responsive leader, please vote Luke Angelot. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our Wicomico County Board of Education Candidate Forum. I want to thank the audience again for attending tonight. This is an important issue you're voting on. And again, thank you to all of our candidates for sharing your insights and your platforms with us tonight. And last but not least, thank you to PACE at Salisbury University, the Greater Salisbury Committee, and the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce.